Today is May 20th. Why did Jesus eat the Last Supper? Let's find out together as we study Mark chapter 14, verses 12 to 16. So in Mark chapter 14, starting in verse 12, on the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb is to be sacrificed, Jesus' disciples ask him, "Where do you want us to go to prepare the Passover meal for you?" Jesus sent two of them into Jerusalem with these instructions. "As you go into the city, a man carrying a pitcher of water will meet you. Follow him. At the house he enters, say to the owner, 'The teacher asks, where's the guest room where I can eat the Passover meal with my disciples?' He'll take you upstairs to a large room that's already set up. That's where you should prepare our meal." So the two disciples went into the city and found everything just as Jesus had said, and they prepared the Passover meal there. These are really odd directions, aren't they? Go into the city until you find a man carrying a pitcher of water, follow him. They're odd directions, and the meal is also odd. Jesus sends them. They were going into the city to find a place to eat the Passover meal, which would normally have been eaten the following day. Jesus has them prepare it for that day. It's a day early, a day before the Passover lamb is traditionally sacrificed. Now, they go into a room that is called the upper room. And one of the things that we do find out later, look in the book of Acts with me. Acts chapter 1, verse 13 tells us that the disciples, after they saw Jesus ascend, verse 12, the apostles returned to Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives, a distance of half a mile. When they arrived, they went to the upstairs room of the house where they were staying. Now, it doesn't say exactly, but we're led to believe that this is still that same upper room that they used to celebrate the Passover meal. Throughout the book of Acts, the upper room appears to become a center for the church's activity. They almost took over that home. We'll see more about that later next week as we continue to study the Passion Week. Let's focus, though, on the Passover meal. The Passover meal is first described in Exodus chapter 12, when Moses tells Israel to prepare a Passover meal during the 10th plague that would lead to their freedom from the country of Egypt. He actually lays down a festival, a meal that should be celebrated throughout the ages. He tells them every year on this particular day, you're to do the same thing. Now do it this time because something important is going to happen. The angel of death will come. And if you take the Passover lamb that you've sacrificed for a meal and you sprinkle the blood on the doorpost of your house, the angel will see the lamb's blood and will leave you alone. If he doesn't see it, he'll enter that house and kill the firstborn. The Egyptian firstborn were killed that day. But in Israel, it didn't take place because they had sacrificed a lamb. In verses 26 and 27 of Exodus 12, Moses says that when you do this in subsequent years, your children will ask, what does this ceremony mean? And you'll reply, it's the Passover sacrifice to the Lord. For he passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt. And though he struck the Egyptians, he spared our families. What Moses says is that on a yearly basis, celebrate the Passover meal. It will remind you of three things. First of all, it'll remind you that God saves us in his mercy. God initiated the whole thing. God sent Moses to Egypt to take Israel out of Egypt. God saves us through his mercy. Secondly, God delivers us in his power. The angel of death came when he saw the Passover lamb on our doorpost. He passed over us. But he killed the firstborn of the Egyptians. And as a result, Pharaoh said, get out, leave. God delivers us in his power. And thirdly, somebody has to die. In the Old Testament, a lamb had to die. It was a lamb's blood that marked the door. The Passover meal was a symbol forever, celebrated even today in Jewish households. The Seder meal without a Passover lamb, there's no temple in which to sacrifice the lamb. Instead, they eat a meal like Jesus and his disciples ate that night, a meal that had all of the elements of a Passover meal except the Passover lamb. Jesus and his disciples did it because the Passover lamb was sitting at the table with them, and he would be sacrificed as other Passover lambs were being sacrificed in the temple. But once that sacrifice took place, there's never a need for another sacrifice to take place. The Passover meal is a symbol. It reminds us. So my question for you today is, what symbols are important to you? What is it that you focus on to remind you of what God has done for you? Spend some time thinking about symbols in your life and spend some time worshiping the Lord. Please like, follow, and subscribe to this devotional. Send your questions to us at questions@becomehope.com. Tomorrow,